So it looks like the Chiefs might actually have the upper hand here against the Broncos this week, especially when you look at how the final injury report affects some pretty important players for better or worse on both sides of the ball. This sets up for some key matchups to keep eyes on, and I'll talk about how this Chiefs and Broncos game could end up going by looking at these injury reports, talk about some keys to victory, weaknesses that could be exploited, and more. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? All right, so the most important game of the season so far for KC is here. The 5-4 Chiefs are traveling to Denver to take on the 8-2 Broncos, who have now managed to rattle off 7 wins in a row, with 5 of those being one-score affairs that they've just found a way to get out of there with a W. 4 of their games this year have involved fourth-quarter comebacks, with that defense really holding it down and their offense finding life late in these games. You can say what you want about Denver in regards to some of their opponents or the weird ways that they've ended up winning, but that doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, a W is a W. The NFL, especially this year, has been a very week-to-week league. I mean, look at the Bills recently, for example. They just played one of their best games of the year against the Chiefs, and then they got curb-stomped by multiple scores by the Miami Dolphins, who had only 2 wins heading into that game. So who cares? Just do what you can to find a way to win. The Chiefs have lost a couple of games they probably shouldn't have, with one in particular being the Jags game, Week 5, still haunts me to this day. These two teams' records, talking about Broncos and the Chiefs, could very well be closer than it is, but Denver has happened to make a few more clutch plays when it matters most. I understand they are a defensive first team or a defense-led team, and that's a big reason why they've only lost 2 games. They are allowing just 17.3 points per game right now. That's 3rd best in the league. Then they allow the fewest yards per play, are the best defense on 3rd downs, they're best in the red zone, and have allowed the fewest touchdowns in the league compared to the drives that they've been out on the field. 119 drives for Denver's defense and only 15 touchdowns given up. Spags and his defense, in comparison, has allowed a touchdown on 18 drives out of 82 total, which is 12th in the NFL. And that's really the story of 2 halves, if you will, for the Broncos, if one half was their defense and the other was their offense, because their defense has been lights out in nearly every single category. Meanwhile, their offense has struggled in comparison. Denver's offense has the most 3-and-outs in the NFL with 34. They also lead the league in drops. Bo Nix is bottom 10 in completion percentage, 8th in turnover-worthy plays, tied for 3rd in interceptions with 8, 29th in success rate on his scrambles, and is 2nd worst in the league on most obvious passing down situations in a clean pocket. On top of all that, that wasn't enough. They've also punted more than anybody else in the NFL. And remember when I mentioned the Broncos defense is best in the league at preventing touchdowns compared to the drives they've had? Well, the Broncos offense has had 119 drives, the most in the NFL, and have scored a touchdown on 28 of them. That's roughly middle of the pack. The Chiefs offense has had the fewest drives in the NFL in comparison with 84, yet have matched the Broncos with 28 touchdowns as well. That leaves KC's offense with the 4th best touchdown percentage per drive, and yes, right around middle of the pack for Denver's offense, 17th. That might be better than you were expecting for the Broncos offense, 17th, but honestly, based on some of these offensive stats that I've given you for Denver, you would think they are one of the worst offenses in the entire league. Well, not really, because they've come alive in the 4th quarter in several games and are middle of the pack to slightly below average in a lot of stats here, from points per game to 3rd downs, yards per play, and passing yards per game. They are above average in the red zone, 10th best, and are 9th in rushing yards per game. So don't let people fool you when they say Denver's offense is flat out awful. That's really just not true, even though they looked awful against the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. Now, I will say they're going to be down a very key player on offense this week, and that's going to be an issue for them, no doubt about it. I'll break that down, as well as the Chiefs' injuries, a very important player aiming to make his return. I'll also give a score prediction and more coming up next. But first, I gotta shout out the delicious sponsor of today's video, Good Chop. They deliver high-quality American meat and seafood straight to your door, which helps you remove the guesswork of hitting or missing out on certain cuts at the grocery store by delivering vacuum-sealed cuts frozen at peak freshness so your freezer stays stocked. From there, you cook what you want, when you want. Simple as that. My entire family has enjoyed them for close to 2 years now, and it helps that there's more than 100 menu items to choose from. USDA choice and prime steaks, 100% grass-fed beef, wild-caught seafood, chicken, and so much more. This go-round, the New York strips were perfect on the grill for dinner. The sockeye salmon was a family favorite for my daughters especially, as was the thick-cut bacon, and then the ground beef helped make some fire burgers. Honestly, it was all good per usual, which has been our experience with Good Chop from the very beginning. On top of that, Good Chop sources only the good stuff, which is why they feel confident about their 100% money back guarantee. Either love Good Chop or get your money back. So to support local family farms and independent ranchers in the US as well as my channel, go to goodchop.com/YouTube and use code HBTC50 or click the link in the description down below to get $50 off plus free shipping on your first order. Again, that's goodchop.com/YouTube and use code HBTC50 to get $50 off plus free shipping on your first order. Okay, let's get back to the Broncos run game here because one of their most productive players on offense has been J.K. Dobbins. I can't remember where I heard this, but he's been so valuable to the team that he's accounted for almost 25% of their total offensive production. He was on pace for 1,300 yards this season and I think was tied for 5th in rushing yards out of every back in the league. However, he hurt his foot last week and is out for this game, and it just got reported that he's going to miss the next several, and IR is currently being considered. That's obviously a big blow for that offense that has struggled with consistency and leans on their run game to help set up play actions and bootlegs off of that. That means the rookie, RJ Harvey, will get more looks in this one, and he's the guy to watch out for in the receiving game as well. He's actually tied for first in receiving touchdowns with Devon Achane and CMC, catching 4 of them for scores. Outside of Dobbins, Bo Nix and Harvey are really the only other guys that have ran the football. And honestly, I do expect Nix to use his legs more in this game. He hasn't done it as much this year compared to last, but out of all the ways you can attack the Chiefs defense, scrambling has proven to be a pretty effective one in key situations. There's been multiple quarterbacks that have done it, but Herbert did it week 1, and Trevor Lawrence had a field day, an absolute career day using his legs on Monday Night Football. So they have to aim to contain Nix, and Spags wants to keep the coverage tight, forcing Nix to hold on to the football with the goal of getting somebody home. If Nix has to hold on to the football, he does struggle. I think he overthinks it. Not really sure why that is, but Spags told the media yesterday that keeping Bo unsettled and out of rhythm is a goal here. He's good at movement passes, bootlegs, and play action, and part of the frustration about Nix is he's very good at not taking sacks. He actually has the best pressure to sack percentage in the NFL at 9.3%. Jordan Love is next at 12%, and Mahomes is tied for 11th with Baker at 14.4%. Part of the reason for this is Nix has the 11th fastest time to throw at 2.69 nice seconds. Lots of quick passes, screens, and the like, which is why I think the Chiefs secondary is going to have to play a big role in this one. It helps that they have the best coverage grade in the NFL right now per PFF, and one of the keys for that secondary in this game is something they love to do and Nix does not like, and that is disguising their coverage. They do this at the 5th highest rate in the NFL with movement post-snap, and that's something that has thrown Bo Nix off. When defenses don't disguise coverages, Nix has found more success and will attack downfield. He's actually tied for first with the most deep shots downfield, and honestly, hasn't been that successful. He has the 8th lowest completion percentage on passes 20 plus yards down the field, but he has the 2nd most touchdowns with 8 on such attempts. So they don't hit often, but they can strike gold at times on these deep passes. If the coverage holds up, though, I think Spags and that defense can hold Denver to roughly their average allowed throughout the season so far, which is about 17 points. Sure, if Denver is wise, they'll try to exploit the linebackers in coverage and target their tight end, Evan Ingram, but Cortland Sutton always seems to make big plays against KC, and he's by far their biggest threat. Troy Franklin is one to watch out for as well and leads the team in touchdowns, but I will also mention Marvin Mims can't be slept on either. He missed the last couple of games due to a concussion, but that's another speedster and returner, and he is back for the Broncos this week. I do hope that regardless of who's out there running routes, the D-line can apply pressure to Nix to throw him off on key downs, and then of course, not over pursue, keep their lane integrity, and that will hopefully mitigate him burning them on the ground using his legs. Now, I will say, speaking about the defensive line, the Jaguars recently released defensive tackle Colin Saunders, and he cleared waivers today. So, since he cleared waivers, the Chiefs might maybe be adding him to their practice squad because the D-line depth, especially along the interior, is super thin. That's another worry for another day, though. I do want to talk about an injury on the D-line right now, though. George Karlaftis, he's probably your most impactful guy. Actually, he's not probably. He is your most impactful guy along the line outside of Chris Jones. Well, he's dealing with a thumb injury, and while he is going to be playing, he doesn't have a game designation or anything like that. You can see in this photo here, he's got a brace or a cast on that right hand. That's going to affect his play, at least in some capacity for sure. There are no other concerns as far as defensive injuries go, but just like the Broncos and their RB1, the Chiefs will also be without Isaiah Pacheco for the second straight game as he's dealing with an MCL sprain. The running back room, even without a healthy Pacheco, is last in missed tackles forced on early downs, second to last in missed tackles forced on any down, last in the NFL in explosive plays with 14, and also last in the league in yards after contact. So the running back room isn't great, even though Kareem Hunt has been absolutely elite in short yardage situations. He's converting on third or fourth and short, basically at the same level or nearly as high as the tush push. Well, he's going to be given the majority of the workload once again in this one. And again, Pacheco, yes, his loss is going to be felt, but it's not some detrimental loss to the offense here, okay? It's not nearly the magnitude as the Broncos losing J.K. Dobbins because of how much they lean on their ground game. I will say, here's what you do without Pacheco. Hopefully, yes, Kareem Hunt continues to do his thing, right? And he does that at a high level. But how about you sprinkle in a bit more Brashard Smith due to how explosive he is? Get this, the Athletic Football Show, they had an interesting stat. I call it a gem here about Denver and man coverage against running backs in the pass game. Well, they've allowed 6 receptions to running backs for 163 yards. That's an average of 27 yards a pop. Obviously, that's only 6 examples through 10 entire games, but that could be something KC tries to take advantage of a few times in this one, and Smith would definitely be the guy to do it. And I guess I'll just say this before I move on from the run game. I don't expect much of anything from Elijah Mitchell, and at this point, I anticipate KC to elevate CEH from the practice squad again and dress him out rather than Mitchell. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd be happy to be so, but I'm not going to hold my breath in regards to Elijah Mitchell getting any playing time when he's been a healthy scratch all season. Not really sure why that changes now. Now, regardless of who's carrying the football, Denver's defense has allowed the fewest yards per carry to running backs on the year, so it's not going to be easy. In fact, I kind of hate these guys because they're so good in nearly every facet of the game. They're going to be extremely difficult to play against, but the Chiefs are going to at least have to try to establish a bit of a run game that's going to help keep Denver's elite pass rush a bit more honest, as will RPOs, quick screens, jet sweeps, bootlegs, rollouts, really anything you can do off the quick passing game or trying to deceive that elite pass rush, that's going to help. It's a huge key in this one because Denver's D-line is unreal. First in sacks, first in QB hits, first in pressures, and pressure percentages, and I think they're also top 3 in quick pressures on top of all that. Basically, they know how to get after and get home to the quarterback. It doesn't really matter who it is either. Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, all of them are a problem, as is John Franklin Myers. Now, it's worth noting he popped up on the injury report on Thursday with a back injury. He was limited, but practiced in full today and has no game designation. So I think he plays, but he might not be 100% out there. It's just something worth noting. And regardless of how close to 100% John Franklin Myers looks out there, the others are going to be plenty enough to worry about. Vance Joseph and that defense, absolutely elite. They like to send pressure as well. We will see how often they actually do that against Mahomes, but last matchup, they blitzed Mahomes quite a bit, at least sending 1 extra, so I'll be curious to see if they do that again in this one. Well, that's why the return of Josh Simmons in this game will hopefully help more than having Jalen Moore out there. I do have some concerns about Simmons. I mean, really, since it's his first game back in over 5 weeks, if you count the bye, and they are playing at a high altitude in Denver, Mile High Stadium. That obviously will wear you out from a conditioning standpoint pretty quickly. Andy Reid spoke to the media today and said Simmons looked good at practice this week, though, so there's a chance he does end up playing. Quote, "Let me just see, and then you guys will know. I just want to make sure I've got all the bases covered with O-line coach Andy Heck before I say anything." Well, Simmons was a full go all week at practice and has no injury designation for this game, so I think he will indeed be out there. If not, Jalen Moore is up, and it's still a better option than Kingsley Suamataia, who was out there last year as the team's left tackle in November and struggled mightily, to say the least. Also, some good news, Jawan Taylor seems fine with the ankle. No game designation for him either. So the O-line is about as close to 100% as possible, and that's some great news. Outside of protecting Mahomes, the biggest key, of course, is Patrick. Gonna have to be surgical, decisive, and just play at a super high level, much higher level than he played against the Buffalo Bills. I would think they try to utilize mismatches against linebackers, tight ends, hello, Noah Gray, Kelsey, of course, and then if there's an opening for a running back in the pass game, they have to take it. On the subject of linebackers, Denver's middle linebacker who wears the green dot, Alex Singleton, and if you wear the green dot, you call plays for the defense. Well, he's out after having recent surgery on testicular cancer, so it was successful, wishing him a full recovery, but he's going to be out. So in a perfect world, there's a breakdown or two in communication, and Mahomes has to make them pay for that if and when that happens. You also have Pat Surtain II, one of the best corners in the entire NFL, out for this game as well. So try to take advantage of matchups against someone like Jahdae Barron. Number 23. Look for 23 out there. He has one of the worst coverage grades on the team. There's plenty of other playmakers, though. Talanoa Hufanga, Riley Moss. He's often targeted, but has held his own for the most part when not drawing flags. He leads the team with 8 of them. And if Denver is wise, I would think they try their best to remove Rashee Rice from the equation, which should open up opportunities for others. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and maybe even Tyquan Thornton as a deep threat. Speaking of Worthy, he popped up on the report yesterday because of a tweaked ankle. It's the same ankle that he's been dealing with for weeks now. He tweaked it a little bit per Andy Reid, but he did say that Worthy did everything today, no problem at all. So that's a positive for Worthy, no game designation for him. I will say the ankle and the shoulder, the combo of those two injuries has affected his play this season, and understandably so. So he's probably not going to be 100% out there. And if they want to utilize Tyquan Thornton a bit more in this game, I will not complain at all. The reality is the Chiefs' high-powered offense, that's top 3 in many metrics since the return of Rashee Rice, is going against an absolute juggernaut of a defense. The game plan will need to be executed basically to perfection, and I do believe KC will leave Denver with a W. It won't be easy. They're a good team. You have to respect them, and they are first in the AFC West for a reason here. Don't take them lightly, but the Chiefs need this win more than Denver needs it, in my opinion. I understand the Broncos will want to win, but they can afford to go to 8-3. However, if the Chiefs want a shot at the division, it's a must-win game, or you fall to 5-5 with like a 9% chance of being able to win the division and are chasing a wild card spot for the rest of the season, not really a place you want to be in. If KC can get up early, get 7 in the red zone at least a couple of times, and force that opposing offense to become a little bit more one-dimensional, basically the more pressure you can put on Bo Nix, the better. Then combine all that with Butker being on his P's and Q's, hitting a few field goals. I think the Chiefs can win if they put up 20 or more. They've averaged 14 points per game since Vance Joseph became the DC in 2023, obviously excluding week 18 of last year when they rested almost every single key starter that they could. But when these teams played last year, earlier on in the season, again, Kingsley was left tackle and Rice was out for the year. I think this offense can be a bit more effective than previous years, but I don't anticipate them lighting the world on fire and putting up 30. I mean, if they do, I will not complain. I will be very happy about it, but Denver's defense is so good that you got to respect it, and I anticipate this being a bit more of a lower scoring affair, especially given the fact that Denver's offense has also struggled at times to put up points themselves. If the Chiefs can play a clean game with no turnovers, I am going with them winning this game 20-16, walking out of there 6-4 and still alive in the division. Andy Reid is the best coach in NFL history coming off of a bye, and there's a reason most people are picking the Chiefs to win this game, even though they're on the road. I'll also throw out my 3 picks for this game if you want to tail them. I talked about them more yesterday in my interview with Brandon Perna. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already, and then let me know your thoughts on this game in the comments down below. What is your confidence level for it? Make sure to also give me your score predictions, and until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?